Commander Do-hyun couldn't stop staring at the massive alien ships through the International Space Station's observation window. They looked like giant silver arrows hanging in the black of space, their metal shells gleaming under Earth's sunlight. Just 3 months ago, these ships had appeared out of nowhere, and now they formed a complete ring around Earth. He pressed his hand against the cold glass, counting the ships he could see from this angle. 23. And these were just the ones visible from his current position. Intelligence reports said there were over 300 vessels in total, all part of what the aliens called their Galactic Confederation. "Commander, your sister is on the secure line," said Officer Lee from the communication station behind him. Do-hyun turned away from the window and walked to the computer screen. His sister Hae-yun's face appeared, looking tired but determined. She wore her captain's uniform, and he could see the United Earth Government building behind her in Seoul. "Brother, the meeting with the Confederation representatives just ended," she said. Her voice was steady, but Do-hyun knew his sister well enough to hear the frustration hiding beneath her professional tone. "What did they say this time?" Hae-yun shook her head. "The same thing they've been saying for months. They think humanity is too dangerous to join the galactic community. They called us unpredictable and aggressive. They won't lift the blockade until we prove we can be peaceful and follow their rules." Do-hyun felt his jaw tighten. "Their rules? We didn't even know aliens existed until they showed up and trapped us here." "I know," Hae-yun said softly. "But their technology is so far ahead of ours. Their ships have shields we can't even understand. Our strongest weapons wouldn't leave a scratch on them." She paused, looking around to make sure no one could hear her. "But brother, I noticed something today. Something interesting." Do-hyun leaned closer to the screen. He knew that tone in his sister's voice. It was the same one she used when they were kids, and she had found a way to sneak extra cookies from the kitchen. "The Confederation ships follow patterns," she said. "Very strict patterns. I've been watching them during our meetings. They're so proud of their technology. They keep showing us their patrol routes, trying to prove how impossible it would be to break through." "And," Do-hyun prompted, "and they're only watching certain areas, specific orbital zones. It's like..." She thought for a moment, looking for a simple way to explain it. "It's like they've built a fence, but they're only watching the gates. They're so sure their technology is superior that they don't think they need to watch everything." Before Do-hyun could respond, another call came through on his emergency line. It was from Earth, from a number he didn't recognize. "Hae-yun, I need to take this. We'll talk more later." His sister nodded. "Be careful, brother. The Confederation has ways of listening." Do-hyun switched to the other call. A man's face appeared on the screen, his white lab coat wrinkled like he'd been wearing it for days. "Commander Do-hyun, I'm Dr. Kita. I'm calling from the Advanced Sciences facility under Daejeon. What I'm about to tell you must stay absolutely secret." Do-hyun looked around the command center. Officer Lee was the only other person present, and she was thoroughly focused on her work. "Go ahead, Doctor." "Commander, we've been working on something new, something that could change everything." Kita's eyes were bright with excitement. "We call it quantum tunneling. But it's not like anything that's been tried before." "Doctor," Do-hyun said gently, "please use simple words. I'm not a scientist." Kita nodded. Sorry. Look at it this way. Imagine you need to get to the other side of a wall. You could go over it or through it, but what if you could go under it? Not by digging, but by slipping through the space beneath space itself." Do-hyun frowned. "I don't understand. The Confederation's ships are watching space, normal space, but there's more to reality than what we can see. There are spaces between spaces, like the gaps between floorboards, but in reality itself." Kita held up a small device that looked like a metal cube with glowing blue lines. "We found a way to slip through those gaps." Do-hyun's heart began to beat faster. "Are you saying?" "Yes," Kita said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Their blockade only works in normal space. They can't block what they can't see. And they can't see the quantum level, the space between spaces. Just then, Officer Lee called out, "Commander, Confederation ship approaching the station for routine inspection." "Doctor, I have to go," Do Hyun said quickly. "Send me everything you have about this project. Use the secure channel my sister set up." Keita nodded, and the screen went dark. Do Hyun turned to watch as one of the massive alien ships moved closer to the station. Its silver surface was perfectly smooth, without a single seam or joint visible. The sight of it usually made him feel small and helpless. But now, for the first time in months, he felt something else. Hope. Over the next few weeks, Do Hyun split his time between his regular duties and secret communications with Hae-yeon and Keita. His sister kept gathering information about the Confederation's patrol patterns, while Keita sent report after report about his quantum tunneling experiments. The breakthrough came on a quiet Tuesday morning. Do Hyun was checking the station systems when Hae-yeon called. "Brother, are you alone?" He checked the room. Yes. Keita did it. The first test was successful. Her voice was shaking with excitement. They sent a probe through the quantum tunnel. It went right past 3 Confederation ships, and none of their sensors picked it up. It worked. Do Hyun gripped the edge of his desk. Where did they send it? Just to the moon and back. They're being careful, starting small. But brother, Hae-yeon leaned closer to her camera. This is just the beginning. Keita thinks he can make the tunnel bigger. Much bigger. Big enough for a ship. Big enough for many ships. Hae-yeon smiled. The Confederation thinks they have us trapped here, like animals in a cage. But they don't understand humans very well, do they? Do Hyun looked out at the alien ships again. They still looked powerful, unstoppable. But now he could imagine something else. Human ships slipping past them through invisible tunnels in reality itself, expanding out into the galaxy, while the Confederation's mighty fleet guarded an empty cage. "No," he said, smiling back at his sister. "They don't understand us at all." That evening, as the space station passed into Earth's shadow, Do Hyun wrote in his personal log, "The Confederation thinks they're teaching us a lesson. They want to show us that we're small and weak compared to their great civilization. But humans have never been good at accepting cages. Throughout our history, whenever someone built a wall to keep us in, we found a way around it, or over it, or through it. And now, thanks to people like Keita and Hae-yeon, we're going to find a way through this one too. Not with weapons or violence, but with human cleverness and determination." He paused, thinking about the quantum tunneling device Keita had shown him. Such a small thing, but it could change everything. "The aliens think their technology makes them superior," he continued writing. "But they've forgotten something important. The most powerful technology isn't always the biggest or the strongest. Sometimes it's the clever solution that no one else thought to try. Sometimes the best way to overcome a superior force isn't to match their strength, but to think differently." A light flashed on his console. Another Confederation ship was approaching for inspection. Do Hyun quickly closed his log and prepared to greet them with the same humble politeness he always showed. But inside, his mind was racing with possibilities. The next morning, he received a message from Keita containing just 4 words. "We're ready for more." Do Hyun looked out at the Confederation ships one last time before responding. Their blockade was perfect, their technology unmatched, their strategy flawless, except for one small detail. They had blocked all the doors, but humanity had found a window. And soon, very soon, they would learn what humans had always known. Sometimes the best way to win isn't to break down the walls. Sometimes the best way to win is to simply not play by someone else's rules. His fingers moved across the keyboard, typing out his response to Keita. Begin Phase 2. The real work was about to start. Colonel Yu Jin stared at the small metal cube sitting on her desk. The blue lines running across its surface pulsed gently, casting a soft glow on the underground facility's white walls. Dr. Kita stood nervously on the other side of the desk, waiting for her response. So this little box, she said slowly, can create tunnels through the space between spaces. Kita nodded eagerly. Yes, Colonel, but I think we've been thinking about it the wrong way. When Commander Do-hyun first contacted me, we thought about using it to slip past the blockade. But after our talks, I believe you might have a better idea. Yoo-jin picked up the device, turning it over in her hands. The dimensional shifter, you called it. Yes, it doesn't just create tunnels through space. It can move things slightly out of our normal dimension. Not far enough to enter another universe, but just enough to. He paused, searching for simple words. Think of it like walking beside the road instead of on it. You're still going the same way, but you're not in the same space as the traffic. Yoo-jin smiled. It wasn't her usual warm smile that made her officers feel at ease. It was the smile that had earned her the nickname, the Ghost, during her military years. And if we're not in the same space as their sensors, they can't detect us at all. Kita finished. We tested it yesterday. We shifted a small probe half a meter out of dimension. The Confederation's most advanced scanners didn't pick up anything. It was like the probe didn't exist. The colonel stood up and walked to the large screen on her wall. It showed a map of Earth's orbital space, with red dots marking each Confederation ship. How big can you make these shifts? With enough power? Big enough for a ship, maybe bigger. Kita joined her at the screen. But Colonel, there's something else. Engineer Park Sun-mi from the propulsion lab has been working with me. She's developed something amazing. Before Kita could continue, the door opened. A woman in a lab coat walked in, carrying what looked like a small engine part. Her hands were stained with grease, and her short hair was messy, but her eyes were bright with excitement. Colonel Yoo-jin, she said, bowing slightly. I'm Sun-mi. I heard Kita was showing you the shifter, and I thought you should see this too. She placed the engine part on the desk. Unlike normal engines Yoo-jin had seen, this one had no exhaust ports or fuel intakes. It was smooth and rounded, with the same kind of blue lines as Kita's dimensional shifter. It's a quantum drive, Sun-mi explained. It doesn't burn fuel like regular engines. Instead, it pulls energy directly from the quantum fabric of space, the same space Kita's shifter uses for tunneling. No heat signature, no radiation, no exhaust. Nothing for the Confederation to detect. Yoo-jin looked between the two scientists, her mind racing with possibilities. How long until you can make them bigger? We already are, Sun-mi said proudly. We have a full-size prototype in the testing chamber. Would you like to see it? The testing chamber turned out to be a massive underground cavern, larger than several football fields. In the center sat what looked like a small spacecraft, about the size of a passenger jet. Its surface was dark gray, almost black, with the now familiar blue lines tracing complex patterns across its hull. This is the Ghost one, Sun-mi said as they walked around the ship. First of its kind, completely invisible to Confederation sensors when shifted, powered by clean quantum energy, and capable of speeds their ships can't match. Kate touched one of the blue lines on the hull. We've combined both technologies. The whole ship can shift slightly out of dimension while moving. It's like a submarine that can dive into the space between spaces. How many can you build? Yoo-jin asked. With proper funding and resources. As many as we need. Sun-mi patted the ship's hull. We've designed it to be relatively simple to manufacture. The quantum core is complex, but once we have that, the rest is just advanced engineering. Just then, Yoo-jin's communicator beeped. It was a message from Captain Hae-yun. Confederation fleet changing patrol patterns. Need to meet immediately. Keep working, Yoo-jin told the scientists. I'll be back soon. The meeting room was small and secure, with no windows and heavily shielded walls. Hae-yun's hologram stood in the center, along with Commander Do-hyun's from the space station. They're expanding the blockade, Hae-yun reported. Adding more ships, tightening the gaps. But there's something odd about it. What do you mean? Yujin asked. They're still following the same basic patterns, just with more ships. It's like they're not even considering that we might try something unexpected. They're so confident in their technology that they're not thinking creatively at all. Do-hyun nodded. They've become predictable in their superiority. Every time they detect even a small probe trying to break through, they announce it publicly, trying to shame us. But what if we launched something they can't detect? Yujin told them about the Ghost One and its technologies. As she spoke, she could see hope growing in their faces. How soon can we test it? Do-hyun asked. The ship is ready, Yujin said. We just need a pilot. I know someone, Hae-yun said quickly. Lieutenant Tae-yang. He's young, but he's the best pilot I've ever seen. And more importantly, he knows how to keep a secret. Over the next week, they worked in shifts to prepare for the first test flight. Tae-yang arrived at the facility and spent days in the simulator, learning how to fly while shifted out of normal space. The scientists made final adjustments to the Ghost One systems, and Yujin developed emergency protocols in case anything went wrong. The night before the test, Yujin found Tae-yang sitting alone in the observation room, staring at the Ghost One. Nervous? She asked, sitting beside him. No, he said, then smiled. Well, maybe a little, but not about the flight. I'm nervous about what it means. If this works, we're not just breaking their blockade. We're changing everything. We're showing the galaxy that humans can't be contained. Yujin nodded. That's exactly why we chose you. You understand that this isn't just about getting past their ships. It's about proving that humanity deserves to be out there. The next morning, they gathered in the control room. The Ghost One had been moved to a hidden launch facility in the mountains. Tae-yang sat in the cockpit, running through his final checks. Remember, Kita said over the radio, the dimensional shift might feel strange at first, like walking through thick fog. But the ship knows where it's going. Trust your instruments. All systems ready, Sunmai reported. Quantum drive is stable. Dimensional shifter is charged. Yujin looked at the screens showing the Confederation ships in orbit. They were following their usual patterns, guarding against threats they could see. They had no idea that humanity had found a completely different way to think about space travel. Ghost One, she said into her microphone, you have permission to launch. The ship rose silently, its quantum drive producing no visible exhaust. As it reached the upper atmosphere, Tae-yang's voice came through. Beginning dimensional shift in 3, 2, 1. The Ghost One flickered slightly, like a reflection in disturbed water, and then seemed to fade partially from view. On their screens, they could see it pass directly between two Confederation ships. The alien vessels didn't react at all. Shift successful, Tae-yang reported calmly. They don't see me. I repeat, they don't see me at all. The room erupted in cheers, but Yujin kept her eyes on the screens. This was just the beginning. Soon, they would have more ships. Then bases beyond the blockade. Then colonies. The Confederation thought they had contained humanity. Instead, they had pushed humans to develop technology that would change the rules of space travel forever. As she watched the Ghost One continue its test flight, completely invisible to the most advanced alien sensors, Yujin smiled. Sometimes the best way to win wasn't to fight at all. Sometimes the best way to win was to simply step off the board and create your own game. Lieutenant Tae-yang watched the stars through the Ghost One's viewport. Everything looked different when the ship was dimensionally shifted. The stars seemed to have soft edges, like he was seeing them through gentle rain. He checked his instruments again. All systems were working perfectly. Ghost One to base. I'm about to pass the Mars orbit, he reported. No sign of Confederation detection. Back in the underground control center, Colonel Yujin nodded with satisfaction. On her main screen, she could see the Confederation ships continuing their regular patrols, completely unaware that a human vessel had already gone far beyond their blockade. Good work, Tae-yang, she said. How's the quantum drive holding up? Running smoothly, he replied. Engineer Park was right. It's actually more stable at higher speeds. The faster we go, the more energy it can pull from quantum space. Sun Mei, who was monitoring the drive's output, smiled proudly. She turned to Kita and whispered, "We did it. We really did it." Keita was about to respond when Captain Heiyun rushed into the control room. She looked worried. "We have a problem," she said, quickly joining Yujin at the main console. "The Confederation is calling an emergency meeting. They say they've detected unusual quantum fluctuations in the Mars sector." Everyone in the room froze. Had they been discovered already? "Tai Yang," Yujin said calmly into her microphone. "Maintain current shift and speed." "Heiyun, when is this meeting?" "In 1 hour. They're demanding that all Earth representatives attend." Yujin thought quickly. They couldn't recall the Ghost One. It was too far out now, and a sudden return might be more suspicious. But maybe they could use this situation to their advantage. "Sun Mei," she called out. "Can you modify the quantum drive's signature? Make it look like natural space phenomena." Sun Mei was already typing at her console. "Yes, if we adjust the frequency." "Tai Yang, I'm sending new settings to your drive. Apply them slowly, over the next 10 minutes. While Sun Mei worked on disguising the quantum drive's energy signature, Heiyun prepared for the meeting. She pulled up all the data they had on natural quantum fluctuations near Mars, building a case for why such readings might be normal. The next hour was tense. Tai Yang continued his flight, now moving more carefully. Sun Li monitored the drive's modified output. Kita analyzed the Confederation's sensor data, looking for any sign that they could detect the dimensional shift itself. Finally, Heiyun's voice came through their communication system from the meeting room. They bought it. Their scientists agreed that the quantum fluctuations match known patterns from solar activity. They're still suspicious, but they have no proof of anything unusual. A collective sigh of relief filled the control room. But they knew they had learned an important lesson. They needed to be more careful with the quantum drive's energy signature. Over the next few weeks, they refined their technology. Sun Mei developed a way to make the quantum drive's energy blend perfectly with natural space phenomena. Kita improved the dimensional shifter so it created an even smaller disturbance in reality. They were learning, adapting, and improving every day. Meanwhile, Tai Yang continued pushing the boundaries of what the Ghost One could do. He flew past Mars, then to the asteroid belt, and finally all the way to Jupiter. Each flight taught them more about operating in shifted space, and each success made them more confident. "The ship feels different out here," Tai Yang reported during one of his longer flights. "It's like it was meant for this. The further we go from Earth's gravity, the more naturally it moves through shifted space." Yujin took this information to the United Earth Government's Secret Council. "We're ready for the next phase," she told them. "The Ghost One has proven that our technology works. Now we need to build more ships." The council members looked at the data from Tai Yang's flights. The success was undeniable. They gave immediate approval for the construction of 30 more ships like the Ghost One. Deep underground, in facilities around the world, construction began. Sun Mi's quantum drives were built in Korea. Kita's dimensional shifters were manufactured in secret bases beneath the Amazon rainforest. Other parts came from hidden factories in the Sahara, the Australian outback, and the Canadian wilderness. "We need to train more pilots," Tai Yang said one day, after returning from another successful flight. "The dimensional shift flying is different from anything they've learned before. It's not just about moving through space. It's about feeling the space between spaces." Yujin agreed. They set up a special training program, using simulators built with data from Tai Yang's flights. They chose pilots carefully, looking for people who could think differently, who could understand that the normal rules of space didn't apply in the shifted dimension. Heiyun continued her diplomatic work, attending meetings with the Confederation representatives. Every time they boasted about their blockade's effectiveness, she had to hide her smile. Sometimes they would show her their sensor data, proud of how they could detect even the smallest spacecraft trying to break through their lines. They never realized the humans had stopped trying to break through. They had found a way to simply step around. One day, about 6 months after the Ghost One's first flight, Jin called everyone to the main control room. The first 30 ships of what they now called the Ghost Fleet were ready. They had trained pilots for each one. Their ground crews knew how to maintain the quantum drives and dimensional shifters. They were ready to begin true space exploration. Today, she told the assembled crew, we start Operation Starcross. Our goal isn't just to break past the blockade. It's to establish humanity's presence in the galaxy. We'll build hidden bases on distant moons and asteroids. We'll explore star systems the Confederation has never even visited. And we'll do it all right under their noses. She looked at the faces around her. Tai Yang, now the leader of the Ghost Fleet pilots. Sun Mei and Kita, the brilliant scientists who had made it all possible. Hei Yun, their diplomatic shield who kept the Confederation distracted. They had all worked so hard for this moment. The Confederation thought they could keep humanity trapped on Earth, she continued. They thought their technology made them superior. But they forgot something important about humans. We never accept limits placed on us by others. When someone builds a wall, we don't just try to break it down. We find another way around it. We think differently. We adapt. We overcome. As she spoke, the first ships of the Ghost Fleet were moving into launch position in secret bases around the world. Their quantum drives hummed silently, their dimensional shifters ready to step them out of normal space. In orbit, the Confederation ships continued their endless patrol, guarding against threats they could see, never suspecting that humanity had found a completely different way to reach the stars. Today, Jin said, we prove that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our weapons. It's our ability to think beyond the boundaries others try to set for us. It's our refusal to be contained. It's our determination to find a way forward, no matter what stands in our path. She pressed the button that would send the launch signal to all 30 ships. Operation Starcross begins now. 2 years had passed since Operation Starcross began. In a hidden base on Europa, Jupiter's ice-covered moon, Commander Du-hyun looked out at the stars through a special window designed to work with their dimensional shifting technology. The view was beautiful. Jupiter's massive form filled half the sky, its great red spot clearly visible. Behind him, Lieutenant Tai Yang was training new Ghost Fleet pilots in the base's simulation room. They now had over 200 ships, and their hidden colonies stretched across 12 star systems. All of this had happened right under the Confederation's nose. Commander, a young officer called from the communication station. Urgent message from Earth. Captain Hei-yun says it's critical. Do-hyun rushed to the screen. His sister's face appeared, looking both worried and excited. Brother, something big is happening, she said. The Confederation's main colony in the Proxima Centauri system is in danger. Their scientists just detected that their star is about to release a massive solar storm. It's bigger than anything they've seen before. Do-hyun frowned. How long do they have? Less than 48 hours. Their evacuation ships can't reach the colony in time. Hei-hyun paused. Brother, there are millions of people on that colony. The Confederation can't save them all. Do-hyun understood immediately what his sister was suggesting. The Ghost Fleet could reach Proxima Centauri in less than a day using their quantum drives and dimensional shifting. They could save those people, but it would mean revealing everything they had built over the past 2 years. He called an emergency meeting. Soon, the base's main conference room was filled with their key people. Colonel Jin's hologram stood at one end of the table, transmitting from their Mars base. Dr. Kita and Engineer Park Sun-mi joined from their research facility on Titan, Saturn's largest moon. We have a choice to make, Do-hyun told them. We can stay hidden and let millions die, or we can reveal ourselves and save them. The Confederation might see it as an attack, Jin pointed out. If we suddenly appear in one of their star systems with hundreds of ships they didn't know existed, then we need to tell them first, He-Yun said. I can call an emergency meeting. We can explain everything. Sun Mai spoke up from Titan. Our quantum drives are running better than ever. We could evacuate their entire colony in 20 hours if we use all our ships. And our dimensional shifters can protect the ships from the worst effects of the solar storm, Kita added. We've been studying solar radiation in shifted space. Our ships are actually safer there. Ta Yang, who had been quietly listening, finally spoke. 2 years ago, we created this fleet to prove humanity deserved a place among the stars. What better way to prove it than by saving millions of lives? Do-hyun looked around the room, then at the holograms of their people scattered across the solar system. They had all worked so hard to build this hidden network of bases and ships, but they had built it for a reason, to show that humanity could be a positive force in the galaxy. He-Yun, he said, call your meeting. Tell them everything. The rest of us will prepare the fleet. The next few hours were intense. He-Yun met with the Confederation representatives, explaining about the Ghost Fleet, the quantum drives, and the dimensional shifting technology. At first, they didn't believe her. Then she showed them proof. Sensor readings they had dismissed as natural phenomena, patterns they had overlooked, and finally, live footage of Ghost Fleet ships appearing in Earth orbit as they dropped out of shifted space. The Confederation leaders were shocked. They had thought their blockade was perfect, that they had contained humanity completely. Instead, humans had developed technology that changed the very rules of space travel. We can argue about this later, He-Yun told them. Right now, there are millions of your people who need help. Will you let us save them? The Confederation, faced with the choice between their pride and the lives of their citizens, made the right choice. They gave permission for the Ghost Fleet to enter the Proxima Centauri system. What followed was the largest evacuation in galactic history. 200 Ghost Fleet ships, led by Tai Yang in the original Ghost One, arrived at the colony less than a day before the solar storm was due to hit. The ship's dimensional shifters protected them from the increasing radiation as they loaded people aboard. The colonists were amazed by the human ships that seemed to flicker in and out of normal space. They had never seen anything like the quantum drives that left no exhaust trail, or the shifting technology that let the ships slip between the dimensions. Working together, the Ghost Fleet crews managed to evacuate the entire colony. The last ship left just as the first waves of the solar storm reached the system. They moved their precious cargo of refugees to safe zones designated by the Confederation, protected the whole way by their dimensional shifting technology. When it was over, the Confederation called another meeting. This time, it wasn't to scold humanity or enforce rules. This time, they wanted to talk as equals. We were wrong about humans, the Confederation's High Speaker admitted to the assembled representatives of Earth. We thought your unpredictability made you dangerous. Instead, it made you innovative. We thought we needed to contain you. Instead, we should have been learning from you. He-Yun, speaking for Earth, smiled. We never wanted to fight you, she said. We just wanted a chance to prove ourselves, to show that humanity could be a valuable part of the galactic community. The meeting ended with a historic agreement. The blockade would be lifted immediately. Earth would join the Confederation as a full member, with all the rights and responsibilities that came with it. But more importantly, Earth would share its quantum drive and dimensional shifting technology with the other races. Your technology isn't just new, the High Speaker said. It's revolutionary. You've found a completely different way to travel through space. You've proven that sometimes the best solutions come from thinking in ways no one else considered. In the days that followed, things changed quickly. Confederation ships began visiting Earth openly, their crews eager to learn about the planet that had outsmarted their blockade. Human scientists started working with alien researchers, combining their technologies in new and exciting ways. Do-hyun stood on the observation deck of the International Space Station, just as he had 2 years ago. But this time, He wasn't watching alien ships maintaining a blockade. He was watching human and Confederation vessels working together, learning from each other. Beside him, Tai Yang was preparing for another mission, this time to help establish official trade routes using the quantum drive technology. Sun Mei and Kita were in their lab, already working on new improvements to their inventions, and Hei Yun was in her new office as Earth's first ambassador to the Confederation. You know what the funny thing is? Tai Yang said, looking out at the ships. They thought they were teaching us a lesson by blocking us in. Instead, they pushed us to develop technology that will change space travel forever. Do Hyun nodded. That's the thing about humans. We don't just overcome obstacles. We learn from them. We don't just find ways around problems. We find new ways of thinking about them entirely. The stars stretched out before them, no longer blocked by a wall of alien ships. Humanity had earned its place among them, not through force or defiance, but through innovation, determination, and the willingness to think differently. The blockade that was meant to contain humanity had instead pushed them to reach further than anyone had imagined possible. And now, with the dimensional shifters showing the way, there was no limit to how far they could go.